That's how it should start.
My cat's butthole. Like, and there's Kay Hanley.
I had a friend of mine in high school. He's going to kill me for saying that, but his name is Nick Kazakis. He's Greek. And the bullies used to tease him by calling him Nick Cat's Ass. What's up, Cat's Ass? Junior high.
Oh my God.
He's just going to have
Look at this cat. What's this cat's name?
Feels free. It's Fred.
Hi, Fred.
What's up, Fred's butt?
Sorry.
Yeah, feel free to just like raise your tail anytime you want.
Get my butthole.
Yeah. Getting to know you, getting to know all about you. So this is your little music room behind you. You got your guitar and keyboard and whatever.
This is my living room.
That's your rehearsal space right there in the living room?
Yeah, basically.
Nice.
That's cool. Where'd you get that Fender Rhodes?
That is Clay's.
It's really cool. I love those.
The Joe Walsh Eagles fiance.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
great.
he brought to the proceedings.
I like him already.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Do you judge? Are you guys? I'm not familiar. I'm only a little bit familiar with the guitar playing world. Do you actually judge people on what kind of guitar they play, or you just figure they got a sponsorship and they're only playing that because they, of course they're playing that. The Fender gave it to them for free or whatever.
I totally do. If I see somebody playing a guitar without the one without the head, without the tuning heads, like that sort of thing, I judge them really hard.
Why is that bad?
It just, I don't know, something about it really is off-putting to me. I don't know what it is, but that's about the only time though. Do
you get upset about people playing like keytars? Those things that.
I like
80s?
keytars.
Yeah, that's like. Yeah.
Zithers? Are you cool with zithers?
I don't have any snobbery about zithers, no.
Now, since you guys are acoustic, what I mean is, you play guitar. Of course, you play electric guitar and stuff, but you play an actual, standard instrument that people play. Because I know there's a couple people in our world, and I'm not going to name my name, that, when you mention like EDM or electronica, they go, they don't even play real instruments. When they kind of do, if you consider that board a complex instrument that somebody has to learn. As much as like, one of those old crazy Hammond organ things that took like 10 minutes to start and everything had to be plugged in just right and all the knobs set just right to get the sound you wanted. And, when you hear some old blues record, they're like, yeah, that's that kind of organ. And they had it set at these settings. That's as much part of it. Or a Moog. Remember when the Tubes first started, they had that giant Moog synthesizer on stage with them that took up a whole wall. Those kind of things. I mean, those are instruments, right?
Absolutely.
But none of that on your track.
No.
The song sounds great, by the way. Are you going to play snippets of it during the call, or are we just going to have to describe it?
I think we should probably figure out a way to get it in there, but maybe we'll just describe it. Maybe that's more fun anyway, just to talk about it. Like, you can't hear it. We're just going to talk about it.
I mean, we haven't solved that. Like, you would think that by now, 5 months into the pandemic, we would have been able to solve this like latency thing on Zoom where we could like actually perform, but we literally could not, even if we wanted to.
Because if you played together, you'd be off by
by a
millisecond of a beat or something.
Yeah.
Not my tempo.
Yeah.
It would be awful. It would be awful. Maybe that would make it fun. I don't know.
Are you rushing or are you dragging?
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Did you relate to that when you saw that movie Whiplash? Did you relate to it at all? Did you have an old music teacher that was anything like that and really on you, or just
did you
friendly?
See it, Ryan? I couldn't watch it.
You couldn't watch it?
I couldn't.
I watched it on an airplane, and I was already a little bit stressed because the flight was bumpy, and I will never forget that movie because of that. I stuck with it, even though it was stressful, but I was on this bumpy plane ride, and yeah, I luckily didn't have any sort of music teacher or anything ever be like that. That was some next level.
I talked to, it was based on the director's real experiences when he was in conservatory studying drums, that there was a couple teachers and there's, I've talked to people since that, we had these teachers that would just berate you And if you weren't good enough, high school band, that was and college marching band was my limit. So I never had anything like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you join a rock band, it means that you are specifically avoiding that kind of music education.
Yeah. There's a sticker they feature in one of the panning shots of this guy's rehearsal room, and the main character is a drummer, Miles Teller, and it said, if you're not good enough, you'll end up being a rock and roll drummer or something like that. Some sticker.
That's about right.
They look down on rock and roll drummers, but
I never took any sort of class or, no? My education is very limited. I taught myself.
All OJT?
Yeah. It's just like,
what?
I didn't learn how to play guitar until I was in my early 20s. And when I did learn, I taught myself using an Eagles anthology chord book. So,
no way.
Yeah, I did. I taught Peaceful, Easy Feeling, all of those songs. That's how I learned. I still know them all.
Oh, that was probably a huge influence on your style then.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Because you do have that country rock thing going for you,
Yeah, and the Eagles, that band is so timeless. And that was something I listened to with my dad, and then I listened to by myself. So, and then being from this part of the country, you can't help but be influenced by that sort of thing. You're surrounded by country music all the time and Southern rock. So yeah, that's how I learned.
Have you ever seen the Eagles live?
I haven't, and I missed them before, Glenn Frey passed away, and I'm really sad about it, actually.
Yeah, I got to see them, through Joe, got me tickets. So I've been to see them a few times, and they're really great. Except I always thought this, even before I knew Joe, like a lot of their tunes have that I'm on coke at 3 a.m. feeling.
Yeah.
You're just like thinking about things.
Yeah.
It's just like that hungover feeling of just like, oh man.
A lot of their songs have that.
I live in Laurel Canyon and I've just thrown it all away.
Yeah. It does feel like that.
That's the sound,
Yeah.
Kate? I told Joe once that if he wasn't in the band, they probably would have ended up like Pure Prairie League, which isn't bad. Pure Prairie League is great, but the sound really contributes.
Kay, I'm curious, did you have any sort of training, like actual professional training? Did you take piano lessons or guitar, anything like that?
I took piano lessons for about 6 years. I was classically trained but not by like one of those conservatory people. It was Mr. Gelletley, who was a very kindly old man who had a ton of like amazing Archie comic books, which was my favorite thing about going to Mr. Gelletley's. And if I had stolen them, I would be a bazillionaire right now. Like if I had taken all of his anyway, that has nothing to do with anything.
We could do a whole Zoom thing just about Archie comics.
I know, right? So and I was notably ungifted at piano and never got good. But my mom got a guitar when I was like, I don't know, maybe like 11. She started singing at Mass. And she started learning out of like the glory and praise, like on this 12-string guitar, learning all of these like glory and praise to our God, who alone gives light to our days. And thank you.
Yeah.
And so I started singing with her, and like I just kind of innately heard like harmonies to what she was singing. And that I didn't realize that was kind of an unusual.
That's
gift.
Cool.
And I loved singing. I never took singing lessons, but I loved doing it. And I kind of learned how to sing with my mom, singing those church songs. And then, but my cousin Greg was starting a band, in like 88 or whatever. And he knew that I sang with my mom at Mass. And he was like, hey, you want to be in a band? And I was like, fuck yeah, I want to be in a band.
Yeah.
So you started out singing the harmony parts with your mom?
Yeah.
You tell me, Ryan, and Kate, but I have this theory, because I used to sing in choir and stuff, and everybody that sings along to the radio sings the lead, but if you meet somebody who's a really good singer, they pick up the harmonies. and they'll do the harmony part, and you're like, and
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that person has an ear, and they can go up a third or whatever the chord is, or the harmonizing they're doing. And you know, when you hear groups like the Beach Boys, let's say, their vocal harmonies are so complex, it seems to me, and so good and tight. That makes the whole band, you know.
Yeah. Which kind of reminds me, when I was driving home from work on my way to meet with y'all, I was listening to the song that we did together, and I was like, God damn it. Like, I heard like a million background parts that I could have done and I didn't. And I was like, damn it. Like, I heard like a whole other song. I mean, the song is perfect, of course, but like, there's like a million other things that I like listening to it again now.
There's always the live version on the live record you could put out and cast it up. Do you, Ryan, Kay, do you guys go through that as like songwriters where you'll get done with the song, and then I know writers do that with like books and stories and you know, news writers, no matter what it is, article, whatever they put out, then they'll read it a year later and go like, I could have done that. I should have put that in there. You know, it's really difficult for some people to read their own work or look at their own photograph they did or something without critiquing it and thinking of like everything they missed, but they zip it, keep it to themselves. Is that kind of the same way with you guys?
Yeah, I'd actually be curious. Kay, I'm going to ask you something in just a second about this, because I feel like I'm extra hard on myself because I've never had that big success that, you know, like Letters to Cleo got a big break, and there was this like, it went to that place, and I've never had that. I'm happy with my life, but you know, I've always kind of operated in the middle. So after a record, I will really beat myself up and go, maybe if I would have done this, or maybe if I would have done that. And I know everybody does it, but I'm curious, Kay, if you've done that with, you know, some of the bigger successes you've had.
That's a really interesting question. I think I've been saved a little of that torment because I've always been so collaborative. Like back in the early days of Cleo, you know, Mike Deneen was our producer, and he was like kind of an old school producer where he would help the arrangement. For example, like with Here and Now, which was like our big hit. That fast, the and it might, that didn't happen ever in the song until the end. That was like a kind of like improv thing at the end of the song. And he was like, no, that's a hook. That needs to happen right away. And so he like kind of would Frankenstein our songs in pre-production. And we would like, we didn't know any better that like, you could be like, no, God damn it, this is our art. It was like, Mike Dean's really smart. Let's just do what he says, you know? And like, and so my career has always been that way. Like I've always had people to bounce shit off of. Like the thing, I never put the first iteration of anything on tape. I mean, now I do because I've got this thing and I, you know, can see into my phone. And so I've got lots of like horrific ideas that live in my devices. But for the most part, by the time I commit something to tape, it's like it's already gone through a little bit of a collaborative process that where I've kind of like really landed at the thing that I want to do. But when it comes to like harmonies and stuff, that's where I always screw myself. It's like I'm always just like that. What happened to me today with our song was like, that's very typical.
That's interesting. That's a great question, Drew, because that's, I mean, I feel like we could talk about that sort of thing for an hour because it's so multi-layered, and like the harmony thing is really true. When Kay said that, I was like, the harmonies, that's a different conversation because I go back and hear the extra parts there too. And, you know, if I get away from just the, you know, structure and bones of the song, the harmonies, there's something particular about backing harmonies or a vocal part like that.
Yeah.
Man.
For sure. What are you working on, Drew?
Yeah.
My beard.
I love the frames and I love the salt and pepper.
Thanks.
It's a great look.
It does look good.
Thank you.
What part of LA are you in?
What's that?
What part? You're in LA, right?
Yeah. I got really the Price is Right is down because we need an audience, a close together audience that are high-fiving each other and hugging each other and going crazy. And That can't happen right now. Which, like, I penciled in a couple of dates where they were like, well, it's going to be earliest this date, latest that date, and that's our only hope for getting any shows done this season. And keep your fingers crossed. So that's like the last conversation I had, because we have to plan just in case. But things are not going that well in California right now with the COVID, so I am not getting my hopes up. But I keep it open and I never leave the house. All I really do, I have a radio show, which is how I know Ryan. I have a radio show on Little Steven's Underground Garage.
Hi, yeah.
Yeah, Friday Night Freakout. And I spend extra hours working on that. It usually takes me 3 hours to put together the playlist, and then I listen to it a couple times and maybe another half hour to futz with it. But now I'm spending like 5 hours putting the playlist together, and I'm really like digging deep and using all these different techniques to get the sound right and the flow right. So for something that I don't get any money from, I spend a lot of time on that.
Well, it's a great show. It's really fun. Like, it's fun, and it's fun to watch people on the socials respond and listen along.
Well, there's so many people have good shows on that station. Like, there's Chris Carter's British Invasion, which I try to never miss. He's so good. And Rich Russo I listen to. Like, the shows after mine I usually listen to because it ends at 8:00 in California. So, I'm always just listening to tunes anyway. Before I settle down to watch a movie or something, I'll listen to these other shows. And there's so many good shows on that station. Little Steven's, if you just listen to the Little Steven's show, you would have that's like going to rock and roll college or something, because he's always dropping knowledge about bands or something. Like, I learned everything from these guys listening.
Still such a fan.
Yeah.
Like, that's inspiring.
I tried to learn, right before COVID, like right the night before the Grammys, I have a friend who's a DJ and a couple friends that are DJs, but this one friend is like a rock and roll DJ, and he opens up for Paul McCartney. His name is Chris Holmes. And I have a couple other DJ friends. They do EDM music, and they're good to know too. But he got me interested in live DJing, and because he likes my show, and I sent him my playlist, and he got me a chance to do a live DJ gig at a pre-Grammy rock and roll party. So I got to play the kind of music I play on Underground Garage, but he did it all live, and now I'm really into that. So after COVID ends, I would like to do, I'm not going to get big being a live DJ or anything, but I'd like to do like small things and clubs. I'm going to find some club that'll let me play, that holds like 100, some dive bar that'll let me play rock and roll in the corner. That's my dream.
I love it.
So it's like, don't you feel like, you're an actor and a writer, and, and Ryan and I are both musicians. So we're all artists. Like, none of us, none of us are punching a clock or like none of us really have a roadmap for how this is supposed to be. But it's like, I feel like with art, the more you can mix it up, like anytime that I do something that is like off the beaten path, and then I come back to like my main lane of art, which is songwriting, it's like, I feel like it's such a gift to like take this DJ gig, which is like completely not what you normally do. And that is kind of like such a gift to your storytelling.
Yeah. Well, like probably I don't know. I talked to a couple of band people, and I told them how I put the show together, and they said, yeah, we kind of put our albums together like that, where if you put out an album and you imagine people, which they probably don't right now, but some people do, listen from the beginning to the end all at once. You want to get a nice flow going. Like if you play like Sgt. Pepper and stuff, that has such a good flow to it.
Yeah.
And there's like symphonic segments, to the record where it's all broken down into acts or something like that or whatever. And when you get to the end, it's like this big finale, and you're taking on a little journey.
Or like sides, when people made albums, it was like side one, side two, it was better,
Right. And you really counted on people listening it from front to back, after a certain time. Before they would just take single hits and put them on an album. And then, like Revolver era, they started like really paying attention to making it a whole thing. Do you do that same? Because I mix my show I try to mix it in key and beats per minute I pay attention to. And I search for, I look for bands that sound alike, that are like the like I play on my show Friday, I played a song by Living Color, and then I played Screaming Headless Torsos right after that, because they have a similar kind of a similar sound, and it sounds great together. And I try to look for all that. Did you do that? You have to do that on their albums, right? And look for the flow when it goes together, and you obsess over that and leave songs out and say, I'll put that on the next album.
Well, what's hard is I think you go in with a group of songs not knowing how they're really going to turn out. They're just like the songs you feel the most proud of or have the most potential. And they always kind of go off in different directions. And then when they're all done, you have to do that thing, and you go, well, shit. What order are these going to go in? You don't really know.
Yeah, and you can't predict hits either, can you?
No, I've never. My songs that have done the best, and Kay's had a few do really well. It's never been the ones I thought. Never.
No.
Wow.
So Ryan, what was do you ever like run this? I mean, you're a solo artist, and for the most part, that's what you've been. Do you have people to like run this stuff by? Like, does your wife help you with like your track list? Do you run that by her, or is this like completely a solitary experience of putting these things together?
Drew's laughing because he knows it's about to get weird.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you can say kinda.
Yeah. Well, Kay, whenever I used to be married, I did do that. Yes.
Sorry, I guess you and I haven't.
I mean, it's been a little while.
Oh yeah, she helps me out all right.
Yeah.
Don't you worry about that.
Yeah. I mean, we should. I mean.
Oh yeah, believe me.
Yeah.
Rent free, right here.
Yeah. I mean, we could probably.
I have questions.
Well, we could probably thank her for the entire new record. I mean, so it's fine.
Oh, that'll happen.
Yeah, but yeah, now Stevie actually is very involved, and Dennis, who Drew knows and loves as I do at Little Steven's Underground Garage, and
Dennis Mortensen.
And Wicked Cool Records, they are huge. They love to help with that sort of thing, and any sort of knowledge or direction I can get from Stevie, I take.
Yeah.
So
I can't imagine doing this stuff without other people. Like I can't. I don't even understand like how to be a solo artist. So hats off to you, or hats on to you.
Thank you. I'm thankful that I have a handful of people in my life that I really trust with, and you know how rare that is in this business. So to have those people, I count on them, because I would go nuts if it was just me, I think, trying to figure it out and to make a decision as far as, track listing and things like that. I do count on other people.
Can I just, from being from the stand-up comedy world, which is a total solo thing. It's about as lone as you can get. No matter what we write, no matter what you think is funny, if the audience doesn't laugh, gotta go.
Right.
Like you'll have all this stuff like thinking like, oh, this will be good. And then you get up on stage and it'll lay there, or you'll say some throwaway line. It'll get a big laugh. And you're like, oh, I got to write that down. And there's really no, the meeting has been upgraded by the host and now includes unlimited minutes. Okay, good.
Look at that.
Thank you.
Least I can do.
Yeah, but there's nowhere, and it's really like not done in the stand-up comedy world when people are good. You don't ever go up to another comic and go, hey, I got this bit I'm thinking of. What do you think of this? They don't want to hear it. Just get up on stage and do it and you let the audience know. But you guys don't have that kind of pressure. Like you don't go to some coffee house like a comic would go to, like the local, like I can't go to like Comedy Store, the Improv, and I can work shit out on a late night set or something. You can't just go to some coffee house with the guitar and open up a notebook and go, here's some songs I'm working on. What do you think? Can you?
No. Kay, what would you say that's a really great point Drew just made. What would you say is the equivalent, turning it into the label and then going try again?
The beginning of an artist's career, again, I've always been in a band and written the band. So like, again, like there's a certain comfort level there. But like when we were in the early days, you know, it's like we were just like banging it out in clubs, and like you could tell what songs were resonating with the audience or not. So like at the beginning of your career, it's a similar thing. It's like there's a vetting process that you get with the audience. But then your second album, it's like you have to get off the road and just like after like pounding this, after like spending your entire career like writing all these songs to make your record, and then it's successful and go on tour, and you know, like you get into that energy space, and then you have to go home and try and figure out how to write a second album without the benefit of all of that vetting. And now you have to rely on your own instincts, which
I wonder if
it's good. I don't know.
Well, I think that's really interesting. And Drew, correct me if this is wrong, but I think this is very similar. So you find either that joke or that song that works with an audience, and then you want to recreate that thing without it being the exact same thing. So you do have that thing where you know it'll work on a certain level, that kind of song or that kind of joke or comedy. And do you guys find yourselves trying to, or did you recreate without duplicating it? You know what I mean? Like this was good, people like this, I need to do this.
In stand-up, you want to duplicate it exactly if a joke works.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, if you're loose, you'll vary it a little bit, but sometimes you don't want to ruin the punchline of the joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you make sure it's like really good stand-up is like each word is parsed, you know, where you know exactly, and it's done for the highest utility and the biggest bang for the buck and all that stuff. And you don't have to be like that. A lot of it is a lot looser, but you know, you have general theme. But yeah, normally you don't want to mess with like guys will have like a set list in order. I'm going to start with this bit and end with this one, and they try not to vary it. And you know, the problems come when you get interrupted and you have to skip around, and you'll see guys just get off, say, whew, I got off my list, I had to skip around, and then come back and remember where that other thing was and find a way to connect it, because you have all the segues there. So yeah, you want to do it the same way all the time.
I went and saw Maria Bamford at Flappers in Burbank.
Oh, she's great.
She's so great. I love her. But I was really surprised, but I guess she was like workshopping like some new bits and stuff. But like she had like a set list, and she kind of was like, oh, I'll try this one. She just like pulled like one of the bits off of her list and just like went for it.
If you're Maria Bamford and you're at Flappers in Burbank, and I know just what that club is, the audience there doesn't care if you're reading out of a notebook. Like they're excited to see you there. Yeah. I was at the Improv one time, and it was late. It was like fourth crowd. It was like a late Friday night or Thursday night or something like that. And Chris Rock got up there like midnight, like one of the last guys. And people are like, oh my God, Chris Rock. He walked up, he had a little spiral notebook, put it on the stool. Hey, how you doing? I've been thinking about that. He just read right off the list.
I love it.
And they were excited to watch him work on it.
Yeah.
Like they were like,
I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was just thinking like you guys could, like every comic has like like the Improv is good for that. And so is the Store and, you know, places around LA, you know, Laugh Factory. Everybody has like a home club or a couple of clubs that they always go to, and they'll get spots, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, no pressure. And, you know, in the smaller room or an off night, and they'll just get up there and they'll just work on whatever and no expectations. And the comedy club audiences know that, but I bet there's like a home club that you guys could use where you could show up. Like Jay Leno, when he was on the Tonight Show and, you know, making big bucks and doing jokes, but he would also like he would do the Tonight Show and then fly off to Vegas, you know, in a helicopter and do a show somewhere and then fly back. He was always working, you know, on the weekends and stuff. And he would go to every Sunday, he would go to the Comedy and Magic Store in Hermosa Beach and do a bit and test out jokes. And they knew that Leno was going to be there every Sunday night. And he was trying out jokes, and it was real exciting for the crowd to be there. And he would get up very casually and go, hey, everybody, I got some jokes. And it doesn't matter who else was there. And you guys could definitely do that if you were like in your hometown and said, hey, I'm going to make this my home club, and I'm going to try out tunes and do standards and just see what works. And they'll be excited to see you and watch you work and see you develop stuff. And then they think like, oh, I saw him develop that or her develop that song. I saw the beginning demo of it, you know, when it was just chords. And then as they added stuff, I got to hear the whole thing. it'd be a cool thing for musicians to do. I don't know. That's a good idea to me, man.
Yeah. I mean, I go home to Boston sometimes, but I don't really perform that much anymore. I like a couple of times a year, but
I'm talking like, 100 people, or who cares how many people. It's just some dive bar we can go and like plug in and just get a reaction on the songs and see what the vibe is,
Yeah.
I did that. We had that in the UK. The equivalent of a hometown show for us these days is Nottingham in the UK. So
that's funny.
Oh, there you go.
I love that.
We did that, right? It was like we're trying a bunch of new songs, and I'll never forget this. This one guy came up to me after the show and was talking about this one song in particular. I was like, that's really great. I'm so excited about that. He was really excited to be there for kind of the live birth, if you will, of this song.
Yeah.
And then we got into the studio, and it changed like a song does in the studio. And the next time I saw him on tour, he goes, "Man, you really fucked that up, didn't you?"
There's a story about Dion, and I think it's Wanderer, or what? I think it's Wanderer, or that's the song. But he said the story was there was like a basement party somewhere, and he started playing it and making it up, and people were like banging on, upside down cans and shit, and it was like a really good groove. And then he recorded it, and all his friends were like, "Man, it doesn't sound as good as you did at that basement part." Like this big hit song that he had, but it just didn't have that spontaneous vibe, like too produced or whatever.
Yeah.
Which can ruin things, I guess. I don't know. So many variables go into this stuff. It's crazy.
Kay, have you ever made a live record? I actually don't know.
Yeah, a ton.
Yeah.
Letters to Cleo did one a couple years ago. And then I did a bunch of live records when I was doing my solo stuff. Yeah. After Zoe Mabel was born, I made a solo record. I made a couple of solo records and went on tour for that stuff when the kids were like little.
And did you find that experience was more kind of like, and what Drew said made me think about this. Was it more like you captured some live magic that you wouldn't have otherwise?
Because the live magic only happens live, you know? Yeah. I mean, it's like whenever I hear something live recorded, like I used to go insane when people would make board tapes back in the day.
Oh my God, the worst.
Like that, and when you were like scream, like there were no in-ear monitors back, like just like bar, no matter how great the place was, it was like the shitty monitors that just like were like soaked with beer and barf. It's just like, just awful for
tears.
But like in tears.
Just sadness everywhere.
But in the moment, people would be like, "Fuck yeah!" and like, so great, and I just be like, But you'd hear it back live, and it's just like my pitch is just all over the place. I'm making these weird grunting noise, like it's. So the last time we did a live record, we did a Cleo live record. We really paid attention to the recording. We had like our mix engineer from our albums, Paul Hager, come and mix the shows. We did two or three shows, and we just kind of like aggregated the best performances. And then like we didn't tune anything, but like we mixed it and and it sounded good, but I still won't fucking listen to it. It's like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Drew, I'm the same. Any live recording like that, I don't know what it is. In the room, it felt great. You leave that night going, that was the most amazing show ever. And then you hear it back and you go, the fuck? That is awful.
Oh my God.
Do you listen to do you record your shows, Drew, and listen back to them?
Doing a lot of stand-up comedy, they'll bring up a little voice recorder.
Yeah, that makes sense though.
Stick it on the stool and then listen to it later in case they do think of something on stage and put a tag on something.
Sort of like hearing the background vocals.
Yeah, and then also guys used to bring in a little Sony Handycam or something and put it up. You'd see that a lot when those things first started. And they'd record themselves doing their bit. And they're going to be doing a show, or you're getting, he goes, "No, I just want to get it on tape." And that's kind of a lot of comics, that's their way of copywriting it. So so somebody can't steal their bit later on, because that's a problem sometimes, joke theft or, you know, concept theft. And you want to say like, oh no, I did that, you know, in July, and you said you thought of it in September, but here I am on tape in July doing it. And mostly that stuff is settled, you know, with an honor code between comics, because it's even happened to me where they'll be me and a guy I'm friends with will be like, yeah, that's a bit I kind of do. And they'll go, oh man, I didn't realize. Or you'll go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were doing. And it's like common thought, especially if it's a political joke, you know, or current events joke. Right. And that happens a lot. It's usually super friendly, but sometimes there's a couple. I want to get into this. A couple of people out there that are notorious joke thieves, and you just don't want to be in the room when you don't go on. Like you won't go on if they're in the room.
Wow.
Your stuff.
Yeah.
We'll hear more about that on our next Zoom call.
Yeah. Yeah, because you know, if you come up with a lick, you know, I know there's when you take guitar lessons, isn't there like whole books of like just licks you can learn, and you know. Yeah. Martin Mull. Do you know who Martin Mull is? Martin Mull's a comic, and he does art now. And he was he would have a guitar, and he would do funny songs, and that was his act. And he'd be on the Tonight Show all the time doing a funny song. And he's really funny, great sense of humor. And he has a song called "Licks Off of Records." It's just licks off of records that I learned, and it's puts in all these things in it.
Yeah. Have you ever unknowingly ripped off a favorite song, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that happen?
Yeah.
I
have to, right?
So I have my former band, Smile Smile. We had a medium-sized hit with a song called "Truth on Tape," and still on the radio here. It's, you know, it was big news back in the day, and it's easily the biggest song I've ever had, and it is literally the exact melody and chords of "With or Without You."
Wow.
It just is. It's exactly the same.
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't know until after.
Oops.
Yeah.
I talked to a friend of mine was getting into songwriting, and he was taking learning from this big whatever teacher in LA, and he said, oh yeah, just don't listen to any music for like 2 weeks, like at all, and then go write a song. But if you're listening to the radio that morning and then you write a song that night, you might have some influence you don't want.
Kay, what was yours?
My friend Corin Ashley wrote a song. Hi. I have company.
Cool.
Hi.
My friend Corin Ashley wrote a song with his band the band was called The Pills, and he wrote a song called Often Brown, and it just had the best chorus, and but it wasn't like, you know, I'd only heard it really live in club. You know, I used to go see my friends' bands all the time, and I would just know their songs from seeing them live. And anyway, years later, when we made our Letters to Cleo made our last album, Go, I wrote a song called Veda Very Shining, which was the exact same melody, phrasing, everything. I didn't even realize it after we made the record. But luckily I called Corin. I was like, Corin, I'm wicked fucking sorry, but I totally ripped you off.
Yeah.
And he was like, don't even worry about it. And I gave him credit and everything. But like,
that's nice.
Sometimes like a song will just be, I mean, let's face it, there's only a certain amount of chords to go around and chord progressions to go around. Like pop music is not, you know, this very complex high art. It's like we sing melodies over chord progressions, and a lot of times like there's shit just swirling around in the ether, and it gets in there, and sometimes I think it's mine.
Rivers from Weezer said one time, and I'll never forget this, it was on MTV or something, he said, nothing's been original since the Beatles, and we've been stealing from them ever since.
Well, even they stole from Sonny Boy Williamson, like, you know, they they got all this stuff from all the old R&B artists, you know. To be honest.
Yeah, that's true. But it's like those originators, those guys, they, you know, they set the bar so high, and I think we'll all be kind of pulling from that forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't get too picky, right? Because you don't want to go like, hey, man, when you went, how? I kind of do that. That's kind of my thing.
Amazing. Oh my God. I think we have to wrap this up in a second, which sucks. I feel like I could talk to you guys forever.
Yeah, tell me how you guys, since you're here to plug this song, which is great.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us how you got together and even did it. Tell us the history of the track.
Oh, okay.
So Kay and I have known each other for a while, just through, we kind of run in the same musical circle. And I've been asking Kay to sing on a song together for about 15 years. And finally, Drew, she said yes. No,
Is this the first time I've ever said yes? I feel like I've sung on a song. No?
We've tried before, but it just never, and it's funny that right now during COVID that we finally figure out how we're going to get it done. But it was honestly, Drew, it was just me chipping away at the Kay Hanley wall. Please. And I think the song, it's just, there's something about it. It's not, it's just a fun, clever song. There's not a whole lot to it, but I think that there's something really great about it at the same time.
It's great.
And
it's so hooky. It's insane. Right? Hooky.
Well, thank you.
And the lyric is so clever. It's like, you sent me the very early version of, maybe, I don't know if you made a demo for it, but it was very stripped down. And I was like, oh, this is not getting out of my head. This is going to be there forever. And
you're the only one I wanted to say. I was like, because, people always do that when you're lucky enough to be on a label like Wicked Cool. They go, we should try and get so-and-so or whatever. And I was like, I've got to try and get Kay on this song. Like, she needs to be on this song. And I was so happy that it worked out. And,
me too.
You did such a great job. And it's just sometimes when things come together in a certain way, you've tried, it hasn't worked before. It does end up feeling a little bit like kismet or magic or something. It's like, okay, well, this was clearly supposed to be the one. So I'm thrilled with it.
Agreed.
Every song begins with K.
Yeah.
And Steam.
Yes.
What else is there to say after that?